let me pop over here and let's see who we've got. Yeah, Preston, Shane, thanks. And let me these guys up. Okay, dokie. Now, let's go ahead and go down to module. We're in module 12. And basically, I think everybody's on cue in terms of how things are tracking through the remainder of the course. We've got, of course, we've got the Thanksgiving week, and then I've got flex time set up for you, so you can, if you wish, you can go ahead and, well, you should, if you're smart, you will work on these assignments that are due the last week of class, and then the stuff that's due for the finals. So I built some time in for you there. Now, we've been looking at chapter 13. We took kind of a quick tour through it on Monday. And what I've got here for you, each week I try to kind of focus in on some application of MIS or a new type of emerging application. And what I've got here for you is we're going to take a look at geographic information systems. And again, now in the chapter, let's pop back over here for just a moment. This chapter 13 is about building information systems. And so we're going to take a look at how people are starting to use GIS as it's coming into its own, and we're going to look at, think a little bit about why it has, okay? And every business has a geographic, or what we would call a spatial element. They're located somewhere, they've got customers that are located somewhere, they've got suppliers, vendors, etc. And so the advent of digital mapping, mobile computing, those types of tools that they describe in 13 provide us an opportunity to build another system into management information system. Now, you know, the MIS is what it says it is. It's a system that helps me make decisions. If it doesn't do that, it's not an MIS. It's just a computer system. So throughout the course, we've seen some familiar themes of a business problem and a way we try to find an application to deal with that business problem. And so each time we're going to see this one little paradigm, and I wanted to grab it here real quickly. And look at some of these applications. Now, before I do that, I want to make sure that we're on top of what's going on with the MIS projects. These management decision problems, the two of them, 11.8 and 11.9, deal with two very different kinds of companies. One's a pharmaceutical, and they've got their own problems, and you'll see that in the description there. Then the other is a tire, the company that makes tires. Now, again, if you want to have a sense or kind of look at what I would say is a rubric, okay, I'll open this up, and here it is. In fact, I even tell you, here are the headings I want, or here's the information I want. Well, the headings tell you, here's what I want and how I want it organized. And the whole idea about these management decision problems is for us to try to make a link between some of the theory or maybe a particular application that they talk about in the textbook back to something out in the real world, okay? And when we've talked about, when you take a look at that chapter 13 talking about building information systems, one of the things we've come to learn is that we tend to just layer stuff on top of stuff. Let me give you a really good example. If you look around this room, you see what we would call a tower. Most of these computers, and this computer lab came into existence in a day and time when you all piled in here and you used a computer. Now, many of you are using your phone, you got a tablet, you've got a desktop, and you compute from anywhere, okay? Well, we've got that system now layered on top. And then if you add an app, you've got another system you've layered on top. So one of the big challenges we face is how do I kind of make sure this all fits together and it doesn't get so tangled that I don't know if I can get the information I need to get or not. This is kind of a difficult course for you and for me for a simple reason. you kind of have to think at the highest level possible. And a lot of times, even though you read the textbook, you can get fooled into thinking the whole process is pretty smooth and we just evolve from one thing to the next. And that's really not the case. What we're finding out in the, for example, take apps. What we're finding out in the real world is that people at a company will build their own application and then tap into the company. And suddenly the company's saying, wait a minute, you've just added something into my domain. You've added something into my MIS. And so that's a challenge that we face. Well, you can see what I'm trying to get you to do here. Again, this is, you consider it like a rubric, and I tell you exactly what I want you to do, okay? Because the whole idea is for you to choose one of these companies. And again, they're always going to be in some different kinds of industry sectors, and respond to those questions. And your response should be couched in what theory, concept, or application in the text can I link back to what's going on out in the real world. What we do with you in the 4 years that you're with us is we try to give you a set of tools, okay? And hopefully make sure that you don't buy into the idea of one tool can do everything. So you don't try to polish your car with a hammer. You understand I've got different tools, I can do different things. And in the end, if these technologies don't give you something to help you make a decision, they're not worth the money being spent on, because that's what they're designed to do. That's the word management information system. That word means, or that phrase means, a tool from the information system that helps me make a decision. Okay, if it doesn't do that, it's really no good. So I want to make sure that I continually stress that with you. And let's go down here in the module, and I've got some resources for you. Now, I try to take Wednesdays, if possible, and say, okay, here are some interesting things that are happening. One of them is the advent of mobile computing. People have phones, they have laptops, they've got tablets. People go everywhere with these things, and this is something that offers us some opportunities, as well as maybe create some issues for us. The second is high-speed computing. Because we can handle so much data so fast, we can almost look at things in real time, if not real time, and that poses some challenges for us and some opportunities. I wanted to focus you in this chapter on geographic information systems because they're kind of the next wave of stuff that's coming. And like I said, every company is located somewhere. It has geographic dimensions. Even inside of, say, you run an assembly plant, you run a factory, it's a place, and it's mapped out to one extreme or the other. Now, I want to go through some of these resources with you, just kind of visit with you. But I want to start off with a very, very important concept. And this is a link out to Anscombe and his story. Now, this is a gentleman who wrote an article. It was in the American Statisticians, about 1973. And what he said was our ability to compute data is outstripping our ability to interpret it. We can produce tons and tons and tons of tables of data. And as a human being, we're not trained to look at a table and go, oh, I see it all. So he said what we're going to have to do is develop some type of way that we can give you a visual cue. And to prove his point, here's what he did. He took 4 sets of data, and if you look there, you're going to see that they have the same summary values. The sum is the same, the average is the same, and the standard deviation. So you say, well, okay, then, hey, I've got 4 identical data sets. But not so. If you look, you're going to see that they all chart out very differently. So data that had the same summary statistics are quite different, okay, when we look at them, when we chart them. So this was his argument, was to say we're going to have to develop tools to find ways to visualize data. You got me? Okay. Now, as people, we're used to seeing this, and particularly if you live out here in this part of the country, we're used to seeing this in weather. The people who do weather broadcasts are way out there. They can, they can take you down to the block by block level. They can show you that, like Channel 5 has their little predictor thing that shows the snow is coming in. People in the weather business have really advanced our ability to look at and handle tons and tons of data. They probably, when those hurricanes, and I think we talked about this a little bit, when the hurricanes hit the coast, the east coast of the United States, and we were able to see, here's what we think will be the track, and then they showed us kind of a band of where we would see maybe some, we're going to be, maybe it'll be this here to the north, maybe a little bit to the south, okay? So these tools help us understand the data a little bit better and take them from something that's just, kind of there and dead to something that's more lively. And so these are the 4 sets of data, very different distributions, okay? So you could get fooled pretty easily with them. Now, I want to show you some other different types of tools that are out there, that applications that I think are worth your while to think about or to take a look at. As you're out there and you go through your career, you're going to find that what we call geospatial tools or GIS tools are going to become more and more and more prominent, okay? And it's going to run the gamut from stuff as big as, okay, we have a sale planned this weekend, but it looks like we've got 3 feet of snow. Down to, okay, I have a device that follows heat signatures on phones, and as people go through my store and they walk through my retail establishment, I can literally see where they went, how long they stayed at a particular bin. So we're just now starting to see the possibilities of that. Now, if you're a manufacturer or you're a supplier or distributor, a lot of this stuff's out there already. And one of the things that has made this such a remarkable change for us in business is that we're starting to see computers, chips embedded in stuff. If you've got a Fitbit, you've got a computer on your wrist, and it's feeding data somewhere. If your car has any kind of locational device, where your car already, if you've got a car 10 years of age or newer, it's really nothing more than a floating software platform. And one of these days, you'll get your insurance, for example, will be tailored to your driving habits. Okay. Now I want to show you some tools and some things I think that are going to be kind of interesting to take a look at and think about. But again, think about what Anscombe, he showed us 4 sets of data that statistically look alike, but they're very different when I put them into a chart and I observe them. And it's one thing for me to know I'm in Oklahoma City. It's another thing to know how that relates to different things of importance to me out in space, like how far am I from my suppliers? Is my facility located in a flood zone? Okay. What's the weather going to be like? So we'll see some of these. But before I do that, I want to show you one of my favorite sites. And this is the Association of Religion Data Archives. Okay. This is one of my favorite sites. I love this one. Now, if you want to get some really good data on what's going on in terms of religion in the United States, this is a great place. It's an archive. but it's also got some nice tools that you can use if you want to look and see where a church is located in proximity to others. It's got some GIS maps. If you click on the far right, here you're going to see it right there. Okay, and they've got some community tools that you can use. And you can do a search, but I'm just going to look at what I think. Let's put in this address. I think it's going to be 301 Northeast 27th. Well, yeah. Okay. Now, what would this tell me? It's going to tell me that my church is located near what? What's the first thing that you see here? Other churches? What else? Highways. What kind of highway? Big highway. So I'm by interstates. Exactly. Our church is like what are called mega churches. They tend to be located out at the intersection of large interstates, usually on the outer loop of a city. Now, you could go probably the 20 largest, and you're going to find that. Why? Why did they put themselves there? These are the most traffic, exactly. We have good data that tells us that when someone has to drive, I think it's between 15 and 18 minutes to church, the likelihood of them attending that given church goes down to almost zero. So people will usually go to church where they live. And so, well, that's odd. If you think about it, I'll give you just a quick, my experience up in when I lived up in St. Louis. St. Louis, Missouri is Lutheran country. You're either a Lutheran or Catholic. And the Evangelical Reformed Lutheran Church, they're everywhere. They're like Baptists in Oklahoma. Everywhere you go, you'll find a Baptist church. They're everywhere. So it only makes sense that you would drive a short distance because you have a high volume of them. Now, your beliefs, et cetera, and all that certainly are going to come into play. But if you're wanting to reach people, then you got to be where they are. Now, let's talk for a moment about what the Apostle Paul did. Okay? How did he go into a city and try to use location and place to reach people? Where do you go? First stop is where? Huh? He went to Rome, but when he was in a city, where did he go first? Let's say in Ephesus, or he went when he was in Ephesus, or he was in Athens. Where did he go first? Okay, and there's a special place he'd go. Where did Jews go? Where they worship? Synagogue, right? Paul would go to the synagogue, and in synagogue, if you get the permission, you can speak. Anybody can be a preacher. So Paul would go into the synagogue and he'd start his spiel, and he'd get some people who'd come and he'd start a church. But he also, you're exactly right, he chose these large cities that followed the Roman road. In the ancient world, it was called all roads lead to Rome, and they did, because the emperor wanted to have a nice paved road to send people out to get you if you didn't pay him his taxes. But if you look here now, this has some other tools that you can see in this. This is an interactive GIS map. What that means is you can go in and look at some community profiles. There's a little tool that will let you say, okay, how many churches are within a proximity of 5 miles from me? There's a lot of stuff here. It's just fascinating. And you can get a lot of information about how churches are are reaching people, what the competition, if you will, or the number of churches, the concentration of them, and you'll see everybody's up and down these two major thoroughfares, excuse me. The reason is people can get there fast. Now, I don't want at all you to go away thinking that just because a church markets itself, that that's where people should be. Don't believe that. Some people will drive 100 miles to go to a particular church if they feel like their heart moves them to do that. But I wanted to show you this because I think it's just got some fascinating stuff. And I do some work with churches. And one of the things I try to do with them is to help them understand the changing demographics that they face. Because a lot of the churches say, like mine, where I go on, and yes, I'm actually there. I check in on Facebook every Sunday morning with my wife and my mother-in-law. And no, I'm not in the parking lot in my car in my underwear checking in. I'm actually in there. People have actually seen me in church. But to understand how that's changing, the dynamic of it, and what's happening in South Oklahoma City that's coming upon our shore will start to change the people that we draw. Now, I want to show you another tool here real quickly that I think is interesting for us to take a look at. Now, again, we could spend all day over there at the Religion Data Archives. They have all kinds of stuff. And I've used it a lot working with people. Here's one that's my favorite. You've seen me pulled up before. This is the Esri Tapestry zip code. Look up and you go over there. You've seen me talk about this in class before, okay? Now, what they've done is they've taken all of the zip codes in the United States and they say, okay, can we get a psychological profile of these people or a psychographic profile? This tool is like a marketer's dream. This is just a baby tool. The commercial tool, the one that they sell to businesses, is extremely expensive. And one of the things that they do is they use an algorithm, okay? It's their secret sauce. And what they do at Esri is every year they mimic the United States Census, excuse me. So rather than getting data that's 9 years old from the census, they just run their own simulation and they're extremely, extremely accurate. Let's do this for a moment, explore our neighborhood, okay? And you can put in your zip code and it will give you a very nice little introduction to where you're at. So I'm going to start exploring. Now, notice what I've got. I've got some topics. One of the things about these mapping tools is that they not only let us see the world like this or from above, is that it lets us also add layers. Now, if you've taken data administration with me, you know we've talked about that analytical cube where I've got these characteristics, the type of stores, the type of products, the sales data, dates. So I've got this kind of multi-dimensional view. And so as we've gotten high-speed computing, that's really started to take off, and we have found ways to program in to use programming to mimic a geographic outlay or geographic area, whatever we're looking at. What we found is that we can just layer one map on the other. And that's really what you do when you use these maps. If you take a look here, you've got some topics you can choose. And really all that is I'm just running a query on a layer. This becomes extremely powerful stuff because it helps us get a better sense, for example, of who we're dealing with. Now, if I'm a retailer, I'm going to look at this because I want to know where I'm about to put my new store. What kind of people are there? And each of you, you could find any scenario here in terms of your choices of what you're interested in knowing about these people. Now, back in data administration, I think a week or two ago, I asked the class a very interesting question. and I'll pose it to you, and it will help put this type of tool and developing in perspective. Let's say that you are my regional manager at Lowe's, and you have a team that's a location team. You find places to put Lowe's. Okay. Now, would you put your new store in an old neighborhood with old houses, or would you put your store in a new neighborhood with new houses, and why? What do you think? Why? Okay, well, there's something there. You're responding, you say, okay, it's a nicer neighborhood. Anything else? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you say, all right, I'm in the business of selling stuff to fix houses up, sure. What would be the argument of going into the new area? They might build more houses. Yeah. Most construction companies operate on a retainer fee. If you drive out here towards 77 on MacArthur and you see that new housing addition south of St. Greg's, you'll see it. Yeah, it's real pretty and all that stuff. If you drive through there, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of old houses and then some newer houses, and then you'll see a whole bunch of empty land. And you say, what's this all about? Well, most of the time when a builder says, okay, I'm going to develop an area, they'll go to the bank, and the bank will say, usually they'll do what they call a consignment deal. And that is, I'm going to let you build 6 houses. Okay? And the houses out there, 150 grand. So we're going to give you $1 million, maybe $1,500,000. And you have 1 year to build them and sell them. If not, guess what? The bank will do what? They'll give you an award for not paying them, hold an appreciation dinner, right? Banks, what will they do? They'll say, I want my money. So you could make an argument either way, and it would depend a lot upon what you're going to try to focus to do in that area. So it's an interesting question. Should we build new dorms to the south? Should we build bigger dorms? Where will we put some stuff for the footprints on this campus? We have some limits. Okay? We can't go too much west. Why? What's out west of us? Airport. Right. So I doubt they're going to sell us any land. So moving out west may not be an avenue. Okay, so that's one of these things that, let's take a look at this for just a second here in Esri. This is fascinating stuff. Now, if you're a marketing major, I'm going to tell you right now, you need to cue in on this, because this in addition to being able to do things like work with Python and pull some good data out of some archives and things of that nature, mapping tools like this are of tremendous value to you. Let's take a look. Now, I've got population density, median age. Why would I care? Median age. Why do I care about that? Okay, younger people, that demographic tends to buy more stuff, sure. If I'm going to put a Chuck E. Cheese in, how many of you been to Chuck E. Cheese? Was it your birthday or did you get drug along? Both? Okay. The Chuck E. Cheese where I'm at is right in the middle of kind of the boundary of South Oklahoma City and Moore and Norman, because there's a whole bunch of housing additions with what? Lots of kids. And so you're not going to build Chuck E. Cheese downtown Oklahoma City. Yeah, you might get some traffic, but you're going to build it where you need to. So I want to know something about the median age of these people. What about population density? What's that got to do with anything? Why would I care? Okay? Okay? If I have a large number of people living in an area and I'm a retailer and I think they fit the profile for me, I'm going to put myself there. I'll have a footprint. Okay? I'd be stupid if I didn't. Or if I have a high population density, I may have an opportunity to reach people. Now, one of the people who used to be the one of the pastors of our church now has gone, and we have a lot of churches we plant. Typically what happens, we'll have an assistant pastor, they'll be there for a while, and then they go plant a church. And so he planted a church west of us into an area, part of Oklahoma City, right in the middle. And here's the incredible thing. They had set aside acreage for a church. And so he said, can we have that acreage and put our church here? So he's in the middle of about 3,000 houses. Positioned quite well. So population density is important, an important thing for me to know. Now, we've got some other things like credit card charges. If I know everything you charge on your credit card, do I know much about you? And probably a lot I shouldn't know. And I just want, since the dean's here, I'll let you know, we track all of your charges. So when you go out here and you buy beer illegally, or you go downtown to these raves and all that stuff you do, and you sin, we know. I'm not bitter, but I'm teasing you. We don't follow you. Well, maybe not. But now, here we've got an online banking users. If I were to ask you in the Oklahoma City area, where would be the highest number of online banking people? Where would they be? Highest concentration. I'll give you some guesses. Let's say Edmond, downtown, Oklahoma City, over there by the hill and all that, or down Norman. Where do you think? Norman, why? Okay, and so if you're a bank and you want to have a presence in Norman, what's the smartest thing to do? Build a big gigantic bank, or create an app that gets on your phone? Go ahead. The app, why? You're doing your stuff, either transactions, yeah. So I go with you everywhere you go. It's an interesting thing to see all that develop. People paying by their phones, and we have a technology now. Walmart's tried it out a few times where people walk through. It uses what we call radio frequency tags, and you walk through, and bang, it does your groceries, and then it says, "We'll wait a month or two to take the money." Right? Oh no, it's out of your account. That money's come right out of your account immediately. Why would Walmart do that? Well, it's to their advantage, cash flow. How many of you use your app to pay somebody? You do it? You pay your bills online? You do that? Anybody use these person-to-person tools where you can give somebody $5 or $20? Okay. Yeah, you have. I haven't gotten the courage to do that yet. My wife does some of that sometimes. I like to bank online. I like to have my computer there. It's my security blanket, so I do my banking online. I'm not yet to doing the thing on the phone, but it's coming. It's going to be here more and more. Well, it's already here. Now, again, we've got some topics, and just to see, let's click on graduate and professional degrees. Okay. And I'm going to put in zip code 74804. I'll go take a look. Okay. That's going to load it up, maybe a little bit slow to render for us. Okay. Now, the nice thing about this tool is that once I'm here, if I want to look at another zip code, I can do so. You say, what's this about the zip code? Why is it so important? Okay, if you're a marketing student, here's years on. Zip codes are important because they'll contain a lot of loads of data for census purposes. And if you can get down to what we call the block level, that is the household level with data, we really know what's going on with people. And so when you can dive in and say, okay, the people in this particular block fit a profile, have an average income, blah, 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 you're really getting the best data you can get. So the thing that's good for you if you're a marketer today is that you don't have to wait around. You don't have to do these studies of would people buy this or not. You can find out very quickly if they buy it or they don't, because you can see the transactions real time. So we'll click on this, and if you take a well, scroll down a little bit. I want to show you the stuff that you get. Segment description, the kind of the psychographic of the people there, and then their median income, which compares them versus their county and their state, and the median age, graduate professional degrees. Now again, this is the baby try it version, which is pretty good, but this is a geographic information system. So if I were to say, okay, market, say I own a business and you're the head of my marketing department, I say, okay, I want you to use this tool to start to find us some opportunities. I've just layered that into our mix. Pretty simple. You want to use the tool. It's a lot different than if I've got to build something that I'm going to directly connect into my enterprise computing. Okay, so there's some, so that's part of it. And the text, when they talk to us about how do we introduce a new technology, how do we work through that process, there are some different what they call methodologies. And you said, what do you mean by that? Methodology, an approach, a philosophy. For example, there are some people who say we're going to get a new email OBU. Right? We're going to use a new email client, and we'll tell everybody on the 20th of November we're going to a new email client. That's called a hard open, and that's where we just switch over. And now we'll send you warnings and so save your data, save your data, save your data. And then suddenly you wake up that day. You hope it works. There are others that are parallel. Well, the other methodology is to say, let's go parallel. And we develop that system so when it's time to do the cutoff, we're in good shape. Follow me? So the text will give you some good, nice illustrations or figures that show you those processes. But I didn't want to let you get out of here without seeing some of these tools. So, and you can play with them. Go back and look at your own zip code, where you go to high school, where you grew up, or where you came from. You go and look at some others. There's some really, really interesting stuff there to see. Now, I've got quite a few of these for you. This is from Esri. This is a company out in Redlands, California, and they do GIS mapping. Now, I've taken a lot of several courses with them and some training webinars, that type of thing. And the type of, with the tools that they have and the kind of data that people are providing us, it's just incredible. And there are all different ways that we can use this. Now, I want to show you just for a second something that I think is quite interesting. And you can go over it. I'm not going to have you watch this. But this is over at, this is from a course that's put out by Penn State. And what in this episode, they talk about how when they were trying to end the Balkans conflict, that they had a flyover and they had a mapping tool that provided maps, and they provided a road for a group of Muslims who are in the middle of a whole bunch of Christians, a road for them to have safe passage and to figure out who owns what area and all of that business. So it's a nice video. It'd be interesting. I think when you see it, you'll see, oh, there's some good stuff I can do with this. Now, for many of you, these resources may be the best thing that happened. You have your computer, you're at home, you're in the dorm on Saturday night, you have no friends, no date. Come to Canvas and explore the world. And knowing many of you, this may be the best thing you could possibly do with your time on Saturday night. I'm kidding. This is a living atlas of the world. They have all kinds of maps there that they've created. And with creating maps digitally, that means we can layer them. We can do all kinds of data analysis. We can transpose one on the other. This gives us a tremendous advantage. Now, always try to take an approach with you that hopefully I'm 5 or 10 years down the road ahead of you, so you don't get surprised. And what we're going to see is these tools, as they get more and more dumbed down and more on the desktop, people will say, okay, give me my sales, give us the sales history for zip code 73107 or something like that. And boom, you'll pull it up. Now, this is the Living Atlas, and they give you some new things like what's going on, all types of maps you could possibly ever want to see. And you need to become spatially oriented. As I've said before a number of times, I think one of the great opportunities for many of you is going to be in the field of logistics or transportation. And you've heard me say this before, and I will say it over and over until it really clicks in. It doesn't matter how full my basket is at Amazon. If I don't get it to your door, I haven't made a sale. And so this global economy that we've got here and this ability to buy stuff online, and I want it in 2 days or I want it tomorrow, there's got to be somebody there who gets the stuff to us. And so there's some tremendous opportunities out in that field. So if you say, I'm kind of worrying now about a job or what would I do, I would recommend you take a look at some of those firms, because their need for people who are well educated is tremendous, because it's just they're trying to ramp up to the volumes that they handle. And they need people who can read a spreadsheet. They need people who can look at a map. They need people who are logical and have some computational skills. And so I would encourage you to take a look at that field. Now, again, this is an interesting tool, and we could spend an entire course if we wanted to just explore the Living Atlas of the world. It's unbelievable the amount of data that they collect, and then to render it like it does. Now, I'll share with you something kind of interesting. I'm a map freak. I admit that. I'm a data junkie. When it's bad weather in Oklahoma time, I've got a certain station on, I'm watching, I'm listening. I'm on Facebook, and some of those weather people, they're my heroes, because they're so good at what they do. And when they can take that information and translate it out to a whole population of people, some of whom may not be too smart, but they know that deep red means there's trouble. Now, the key thing for you, the key takeaway from you, is that these tools are just now starting to develop. I think I've shared it with you before. I know I have, but I'll say it again. My dad, before he went out into business for himself, worked for a company called Fleming Company, which was a large food wholesaler. His job was to find, he had two pieces to his job. One was to find a store that was failing and turn the thing around or close it. And the other was to find store locations. And so he would be standing out counting traffic and all this stuff. And I took a course with these folks at Esri's called the Location Advantage. I was given all these variables to work with, and I found a location that fit all the variables and the needs of this company I was working for within 45 minutes. I got done in 45 minutes what it took him 3 months to do. So that really accelerates things fast. So these tools have so much potential for us, and we need to be on top of them. And again, most of these are standalone. So they're not at the point yet where you've got people using them, but they're not really linked into the enterprise computing that we've been seeing as it goes on, like the accounting system or whatever. Now, this is their home page, and I would encourage you to go over and take a look at it. Using maps. One of the most interesting things I've watched over the years, I subscribe to 2 online papers. One is the New York Times, I don't know, okay? But the business section in the New York Times is second to none. They have a section there that covers, no one else covers mergers and acquisitions better than them. And then I also take the LA Times, okay? One of the reasons is just to find out what's happening in that end, entertainment, etc., that business. But for the longest time, the LA Times would show a map every day. And it was a map of homicides. And what they were doing was shaming the local police department, saying, oh, here's another homicide. And they'd have them pinpointed through the city. No different than some other places where people will report into the city and say, hey, there's a pothole here. The street sign's knocked down. And so cities have started using what they call open pages, where you can say, hey, at this intersection, there's a problem. The weeds are too high. I can't see to the right. Stuff like that gets people engaged in ways that they never have before. And they've got some excellent things about what they can do with various pieces or different applications of maps, and how we can make people's lives better, how we can be more profitable as a company. They've got some interesting stuff, and I would really encourage you to go out and explore some of these, okay? Why? Well, okay, you can go through the textbook, you can take the exams, the quiz, you can do the homework, all of that, okay? And in my mind, you will have done the minimum, even if you aced everything. What I'm hoping is that you have that curiosity and drive to say, I think I'm going to go explore this stuff. What's this all about? My hope for you is that you will be entrepreneurs, or you will be running someone's business. And to do that, you're going to always have to be thinking way out ahead of them, of everybody else. You'll have to be what I call an enterprise thinker, where you're thinking like the owners. Okay? I think one of the most interesting things that I ever had happen was kind of a shocker. And the dean remembers, we were in a retreat, and we had a headhunter from Oklahoma City. And you remember what he told you? I'm looking for employees who will do 2 things. Here are the criteria. I don't know if you can do this or not. It's maybe too challenging. He said, I'm looking for people who will show up for work and not steal from me. That's not a very high bar. So if you have that curiosity, say, how can I do this better, etc., you're going to be someone that management's going to look at and say, I've got a live one here. So that's what I hope you'll do. So I hope you'll come over and take a look at this, learn a little bit what they're doing, see some of the different applications. And again, this is one of these technologies that's starting to emerge and is going to be a very important piece for us as we move on down the road. Now, I doubt that you have ever thought about this. How many of you have Spotify? Okay, how many of you had the freebie? Okay, the one where they force feed you music. My wife does that because she's cheap, and I love her for that. But she'll listen, she listens to a song, and then they'll feed another song. And I couldn't take that. How do you have the premium? Okay, because you want to listen to what you want to listen. Do you think that the people there have data on where you're located? If you use your phone to access them, you can bet they do. When you and I sign our phone contract, the phone company, whoever we sign with, says, we have the right to selectively sell your data. And so when you go over to Spotify or any one of your apps, they automatically know where you're located. Well, why would they want to know where you're located? Yes, to start to to get a picture of you. How many of you know that the favorite pop performer in Alabama is Lady Gaga? Did you know that? Did you know she's a graduate of OBU? That's a lie. That's not true. I doubt she's #1 in Alabama. But if they can start to get a picture of you, where you live, they start to know something about them. They are the people who want to sell you stuff, okay? And there's plenty of them out there, or who want to get you to bank with them or whatever. That data is fed into a server. So that locational data is already there. Now, it's got some good and bad with it, and it'll be up to you to figure out when have we gotten too far, as opposed to, okay, that's fair game. I think in your lifetime, by the time you're my age, you will probably be selling your data to companies. Facebook, right now, you're the product. Every time one of my friends posts a picture of their grandkid, how many of you go to, are any of you left on Facebook, your age group? Okay, you probably have another super secret hideout where you go pick all your party pictures and that stuff. Beware. Once they're out there, they're out there. They can never be erased. Now, here is one very interesting site, and this is the GIS Lounge. Okay? And they have all kinds of information about training courses, freeware, stuff to learn about this. And I think it'd be worth your while to explore it a little bit. At the very least, go out and look and see what's going on there. Now, I hate to break it to you, but I'm going to anyway. Once you finish your bachelor's degree, someone will say, don't you need to go ahead and get your master's, get your MBA? And someone will say after you've done that, don't you need to keep getting trained on XYZ? When I finished my doctorate, I thought, it's the last test I'll ever take. That was a joke. I probably spend as much time each year going to school as all of you. So I'm a fellow sufferer, okay? But I have to do that to stay on top of what's going on out in the world. And so if someone calls me and say, can you help me with a problem? I'm there to be able to do it. So this is a nice website. They have all kinds of things you can look at. And now, if you've heard about these MOOCs, massively open online courses, I'd say go over and take a look at them. Most of them are free. Some of them you pay for a certain percentage, for a certain level, if you want to take the test and get them graded and that type of thing. You say, why would you do that? Well, for a very simple reason. Some of the best universities in the world are out there. Not all of them, because we're not there yet. But we will. Okay? We will at some point. Now, let me stop for a minute, and because I know I've been like a fire hose. Okay. Any questions in terms of any of these tools, or what, or maybe any of you, have you ever used them? Have you ever used one of these? Never have. How many have ever wondered about why a particular retailer puts themselves in a particular position where they're located. You thought about that? This mapping thing not only includes just the store where I'm at, but inside. Do I need to map the inside? If I'm running a retail outlet, let's say I'm running at Walgreens. Does Walgreens have a map or a template for their stores? Do they? Why? Okay, yeah. They run you through the store, you know where things are at, and they hope you'll stop and buy some candy or whatever, and they have impulse items up front, just like Walmart. If you want to see your future, go to Walmart on Saturday night and see mom and dad with a 5-year-old. And you'll be going, what's happening with those kids? There's candy and stuff they can buy. So it's probably better you blindfold them as you go through there. If not, you're going to spend some time. They want to guide you through that store, and they map you right through it. They know the trails their customers lay all the time because of the heat signature in a phone or following the IP. I'm going to show you something. How many of you have an Android phone? Anybody? All right. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to show you something kind of interesting. Okay, move this over. Now, I've got my Google open, my phone. All right. Now, I'm going to give you some super secret information about me, my movements. Now, some of this can start to be a little creepy, but some of you lived through, how many of you had a net nanny? Mom and dad filtered the, none of that? Oh, okay. Must be getting tired of that. Well, let me show you my travels. I can come over here, and here's my timeline, and this will show you the exciting life I have. And I can go back how many ever days, and I'll just do today. And you want to see where I've been? Isn't that exciting? I'm living the life. No, I'm no longer a moron. I live across the street. I'm now in Oklahoma City. But I was named an official moron for life by the city council. There I am. Isn't that exciting? Now, one of the things I can do, if you look here, and you'll be able to do it on yours if you've got yours open, your Gmail, I can click on this little gadget, this little icon, and I can get the show. I can hit show the raw data, and what that will do is that I can download it to Excel, and I can get these precise coordinates for every place I was. Why would I care about that? What would be the point? You suppose the people at Google also have this data? Do they ever? All I have to do is go drive to somewhere and go shopping, and I start seeing banner ads. Now, this is not only just to try to sell people stuff, but it's also safety kinds of things, and I've shown you some of those where we can use GPS to find people, to look at, we can get Google Earth and get pictures of before and after when disasters have occurred. Here's my life. Now, if you want to see them, here's the other day. Pretty exciting. Now, this is also supposed to let you kind of figure out, am I spending too much time at the coffee shop or whatever. Your Fitbit will provide you the same type of data if you ask it to do that. Now, we've got a couple, we have a couple of interesting cases, those management decision problems. And again, what I would really like you to do is to make sure you look at those directions I give you, because those are like a rubric, and you've been doing a good job with that. And I've got the headings, 1, 2, 3, 4, exactly what I want. So that I don't beat you up with a case study, but that you get a vignette of a company and a problem they face, and then you can go back into the textbook and find an idea. Okay? You can find a theory or some concept or how an application was used. Does that make sense? Yes? Now, I would imagine if I was an accounting freak and I was all over accounting at the enterprise level, I'd come in and show you stuff that you can do as a company with accounting software that will blow your mind. I'm into maps. Okay? Always found them fascinating. I love them. And I learned to use them at an early age. I found my parents at least 3 or 4 times before I was 6 years of age. Okay? But I like maps. So that's kind of my thing. Now, for you as a manager, a great challenge is going to be is when you've got 2 or 3 of those people, or someone who says, man, we have got to have this statistical package, etc., and trying to kind of deal with those competing demands. All right? Chapter 13 has some good stuff in it. I want to pop back over there for just a second. And we talked about risk and return, okay? And it applies when we build these systems and graph them onto what's already there. Go to risk. Most of the time, risk is going to be some type of security risk. Someone gets into the system. And you've heard me say it. I'll say it again. I've said it to other people who kind of listened but didn't. You are a delicate, beautiful flower just waiting for a hummingbird to come and extract your personal data. People who engage in identity theft love college students because they can build an identity around you. They can take what's out there, and there's just enough of you out there now in the data pool, or the data lake, as they say, for someone to take that and build a life. So security around here, especially in terms of IT, has to be extremely high. And you'll notice if you watch your OBU email, it's shame on you. Some of you do not, but you should. Some of you missed out on an opportunity to take a cruise, get a new car. Just watch. You'll see those. You think I'm lying to you? I see some skeptical faces. But you'll see every day, it's almost every week, a phishing thing. Would you click on this link, and it's usually, and now we're getting letters from the president. That's what it says. And if you click on the link, they've got you. Why? Because you are valuable to identity thieves. They love you, and they will go anywhere to get college students because they can build an identity around you. Had you thought about that before? How important you are? How valuable you are? Someone over in Ukraine or Russia somewhere, they're the ones that sell all that stuff. So, chapter 13 is also important because it exposes us to, or it shows us to, the mindset of that person you'll be sitting across the room from someday, who is your IT manager, or your CIO. And if you're paying attention, especially in this course, most of what they say will not sound like gibberish. It'll make sense. And you'll start to understand the philosophy they have in terms of building systems, how they integrate them. And many times the issue of should I make it or should I buy it? You'll have those decisions almost all the time. How many of you are on the OBU Twitter feed? What? You're not on the, how about OBU's Facebook page? That's what I thought. You're all out there you're all out there pirating music and movies, probably. We have Twitter, we have Facebook page. Why do we have those things? What do you think? You're business students. And you know it's a real place? Yeah, what else? So we can tell our story. Yeah. We have a place where you can gather online, etc. Okay. Those systems, those are grafted into our system, but yet I'm not sure we've been that effective. So one of the challenges sometimes is how do I put all this stuff together to get a coherent message out about who we are, right? Now, so that's why this chapter is very useful to you, because it lets you see things from the side or the perspective of a database administrator or a CIO. They'll walk you through some of these pages as I'm looking at them. Look a whole lot like what you'd be seeing in a textbook for the computer science students as they talk about how I develop a system or what they do systems analysis. What would be a number one takeaway? Well, takeaway number one from today is simply this. We're seeing the advent of this tool called GIS, that we can use it in lots of ways. Many, many ways. We can't even imagine how we can use them. The second takeaway is that chapter 13, really walks us through how do we go about a process, and a key part in there is a thing called the systems development cycle or systems development life cycle. How do we introduce new applications? What do we do if we're going to change our website? Have you been watching the website as it changes? The new one? I like the new one. And what happens with the new one? Is there anything dynamic going on? It's dramatic. You go into the OBU website and you start to rise above Prelude Chapel. And you get a view of the campus. Why would they do that? Yes, and you'll see a lot of really cool pictures. One is the bison silhouetted against Raleigh Chapel. Another is 3 or 4 students who are walking along. They look very, very happy, smiling. I'm having a great time at OBU. Come see me. A lot of work goes into that thought process of how do we take that website and tailor it so we attract people to the place or tell them it's a great place to be. And then, as you know, once you're here, you have to deal with someone like me. Now, there's a lot of value in my classes. Even if you don't ever care or get about anything at all about MIS, you will understand 2 very important things. One, how to deal with an obnoxious person, and that's a skill. And number 2, how to sit through a boring meeting. So I am giving you some good skills. Well, I think we've had a nice little run through some of this stuff. And just a couple of things I want to, and I had a bookmark here, so I'm get it real quick. Let me talk some about of all of the different overviews that you get in chapter 13, I think this one is probably the most important for you. You say, why? Well, as a manager, okay, you're going to be managing people, you're going to be managing money, and you're going to be managing information in one way or the other. that's going to be happening. So you want to see how information flows. How does it go from one place to the other? Or in terms of understanding how a process gets done. If you're like me and you've ever had the experience of calling to get help with a product and you get shifted to 4 or 5 different people, you come away not in love with that company. And we know that with a thing called the Markov analysis, that after about the 6th time a person's brand is almost fixed, getting people to change brands. And once you've offended them and that you have a brand and you've been offended, you won't go back. So this data flow, this shows it courses and a registration system. Now, as you watch, look at this, it's fairly complex. And then you'll see that they're going to take you through a process where they would streamline this. To give you an idea of this at the smallest scale possible, I'm going to take just a second. And I'm going to go over here to our friend. Some of you have had some courses with me, you know all about our friends at Northwind. And there he is, Cardinal Buddy, cavorting out there in the mountains. Now, I'm going to go up here for just a moment, and I'm going to show you some data flows. And I'm going to click on Database Tools. Real. And I'm going to click Relationships. Take a look. If I can get to this, I understand everything about your business. And I know where there's some important tables or nodes or records of transactions because I can see how everything flows. Once you start to see that and you think about what's next, you're thinking like a business owner. How could we improve that? If it takes the customer 16 steps, could we get it to 12? Why? Well, if I'm selling an e-tail, I only have so much time and then the person's gone. Retail, same story. So this, and we've worked with this, if you had a database with me, we've looked at this, you could see all the data and you'll find that touch point. And this represents activity. So you could, this looks like spaghetti. And it will be up to you at some point to untangle all of that and say, okay, maybe here's a more logical way to do it. Maybe a more customer-centric way to do it. Does that make sense? I know for some of you, Northwind is an oldie but a goodie. There he is. To my friend Cardinal Buddy. He doesn't care about GPS. He doesn't care about GPA. He just cares about MLB. And he's not smiling because he's been out of the playoffs for 3 years in a row. Any baseball fans? I have a couple of true Americans. But the third and final takeaway is this, and the most important one. And then I think you've let me bark at you long enough. These systems are intended to do only one thing and nothing more, to give you the information you need to make a decision. Data is just data. Data that lets me make a decision is information. And if I can use that information enough times, I have knowledge. And once I've used that knowledge enough times, I can start to get some business wisdom. And I can start to understand some things about my industry, my company, that it just takes time. Now, once again, to put it in one final perspective is this. The average employee who walks out the door when they leave takes $25,000 worth of knowledge with them. 25 grand. They know people, they know things. When it becomes in a thought industry, a thought worker, like all of you are out there destined to become, it's about $150,000. So you become a pretty valuable asset because you got stuff in your head about the place, about processes that you wouldn't have otherwise. And then if you understand the systems, you've really got some understanding and knowledge. Now, I appreciate you being here. I think chapter 13 is an important chapter. I hope you go out and do some mapping, okay? And there's lots of stuff out there to see, especially if you're a marketing major. This is the golden age of marketing because you're selling all over the world. How many marketing majors have I got here? This is your time. This is your time. You can set up shop and be worldwide. That's probably what you're planning to do, I bet. You'll be selling stuff on the internet. Whatever. Now, if it's some weird thing like that goes viral on YouTube, don't let them know you went to school here. Tell people you went to school somewhere else. Okay. Thank you so much, folks. See you later. See you next week, in fact. All right. I think it just did because